It was a Thursday afternoon in downtown Chicago, the sky heavy with gray clouds, the kind that threatened a summer downpour. Liam Hargrove, 43, billionaire CEO of one of the largest luxury real estate empires in the Midwest, was not a man who typically walked the streets alone. But today was different. He needed air, real air. Not the recirculated kind from his glass-towered penthouse or the tinted window back seat of his chauffeured Cadillac Escalade. Today marked 15 years since he'd last seen her, Isabella. The only woman he'd ever loved and the only one who'd walked away without looking back. He didn't talk about her. He didn't even allow himself to think about her. Until today. Caught in that strange tide of memory, Liam stood at the corner of Michigan Avenue and Monroe, sipping black coffee from a paper cup, waiting for the light to change, when he noticed her. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, sat alone on the bench near the crosswalk. Her clothes were clean but too big, clearly donated. Her sneakers had holes. But what struck Liam wasn't her ragged appearance. It was the way she kept glancing at the people walking by, as if waiting for someone who wasn't coming. Then he saw it. The birthmark. A distinct swirl of darker skin near her left collarbone, peeking just above her faded pink t-shirt. Liam froze. He had that exact same birthmark. Not similar. Identical. The same unique spiral. His mother used to call it God's fingerprint. Doctors had said it was rare. Genetic, they said, but mostly cosmetic. His heart pounded as he knelt beside her. "Hey there," he said gently. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up. Her eyes were pale green, strikingly familiar. She clutched a small backpack to her chest. "I'm waiting for my mom," she said, her voice thin. "But she said she'd be back in 5 minutes. That was a long time ago." Liam glanced around. No adult in sight. The traffic light blinked red, then green again. People walked by, indifferent. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Emily," she replied. "Emily Grace." He felt the name like a punch. That was the middle name Isabella had always wanted for her daughter. But this couldn't be. Liam shook himself. Coincidences happened. That didn't mean. "Do you mind if I sit with you?" he asked. She nodded, scooting over. Minutes passed. Still no mother. Liam called over a nearby cop and explained the situation. The officer was kind, but wary. They ran a check on missing children. Nothing came up. "Sir," the cop said cautiously, "unless you're related, we'll need to take her to child services until her guardian can be found." But Liam couldn't let her go. He didn't know why. Not yet. But something in his soul screamed this was no ordinary child. This wasn't coincidence. This was fate catching up. As the officer gently reached for Emily's hand, she turned to Liam and said softly, "Wait. Don't let them take me. You're my dad, right?" The street seemed to fall silent. Liam's throat closed. His fingers trembled as he reached for her backpack and unzipped the front pocket. Inside was a photograph, aged, creased. His own face stared back at him. Younger, smiling, standing next to Isabella. And in the photo, tucked in Isabella's arms, was a baby, with a birthmark, just like his, just like Emily's. Liam couldn't breathe. He stared at the photograph, the old kind printed at a drugstore, grainy, sun-faded, torn at one corner. But the image was unmistakable. Isabella with her wild black curls, holding a baby wrapped in a white blanket, and standing beside her, a younger, more hopeful version of himself. He remembered that day. California. Santa Monica Pier. Isabella had joked about their future baby, and they'd laughed like nothing in the world could touch them. But he never knew that photo existed. And he never knew the baby existed either. "You're my dad?" Liam echoed, his voice barely audible. Emily nodded solemnly, as if this were not a shocking moment, but something she had already accepted long ago. "My mommy said if anything ever happened, I should find you." "What happened to her?" Liam asked, kneeling to her level again, fighting the storm rising in his chest. "I don't know. She said she had to meet someone. She told me to wait. She said you'd come find me if she didn't come back." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Hargrove, is there something we should know?" Liam stood, his jaw tight. "Yes, I believe this is my daughter." The words came out too easily, and yet, as he said them, something in the universe clicked into place. The officer hesitated. "You'll need to provide identification, and we'll have to do a paternity." "Of course," Liam snapped. "I'll do whatever's needed. But this girl's not going to some government shelter while her mother is missing." Liam pulled out his wallet and offered his business card. The officer's eyes widened slightly as he read the embossed gold print. "Wait here," the officer said, and stepped aside to make a call. Emily sat quietly, clutching the photo now. Her lips trembled. "Is she dead?" she asked suddenly, voice hollow. Liam looked at her. "No," he said firmly. "We don't know anything yet. And until we do, I promise I won't leave you." She leaned against him. He didn't know how to explain the emotion flooding through him. A mix of guilt, awe, and protective instinct. Could Isabella really have kept this from him? Had she disappeared on purpose? The cop returned. "All right, Mr. Hargrove. We're going to let you take her, pending investigation. But understand, this is temporary. You'll need to file a custodial claim if her mother can't be found." Liam nodded. By nightfall, they were in his penthouse suite overlooking Lake Michigan. Emily's eyes widened at the sprawling windows, the piano, the marble floors. She looked so small inside the massive space. Vulnerable. He had the guest room prepared, but she refused to sleep alone. So that night, the billionaire who hadn't shared a bed with anyone in years tucked his child, into the king-sized bed beside him. She curled into his side, like she'd done it 100 times before. Just before drifting off, she whispered, "You smell like my mom." Liam didn't sleep. Not really. Instead, he stared into the dark, wondering, where was Isabella? And why had she never told him he had a daughter? By morning, the storm had passed, and the Chicago skyline gleamed beneath the sun. But inside Liam Hargrove's penthouse, the atmosphere was anything but calm. He sat at the kitchen island, coffee untouched, eyes locked on a photo of Isabella from a tabloid clipping, one of the few images of her that remained in public circulation. She'd disappeared from the spotlight 8 years ago. Before that, she was a rising journalist, a voice for the voiceless. Fierce, fearless, beautiful. Now she was a missing person, and he had a daughter. Emily padded into the kitchen in one of Liam's oversized t-shirts. Her curls were a wild halo. "Do you have pancakes?" she asked. He blinked, returning from his thoughts. "I can have someone bring you some." She gave him a look, serious, a little sassy. "I like when they're made, not ordered." Liam, caught off guard, chuckled. "All right, made it is." It took 20 chaotic minutes, 2 burnt attempts, and Emily giggling so hard she nearly fell off the stool. But eventually Liam presented her with a stack of golden pancakes. She devoured them like she hadn't eaten in days. Maybe she hadn't. Once she was settled, Liam stepped into his office and dialed the number of a man he hadn't spoken to in years, Detective Cal Reyes. Old friend, former Marine, now a private investigator with a reputation for solving problems quietly. "You're calling me?" Cal said with mock surprise. "What's wrong? One of your yachts get a scratch." Liam didn't laugh. "I need a favor. A serious one." He told him everything. Emily, the birthmark, the photo, Isabella's disappearance. Cal's tone turned grim. "You're telling me the woman who vanished 8 years ago without a trace left her daughter to find you?" "Yes." "And this girl has the same birthmark as you?" "Yes." "And you had no idea Isabella was pregnant?" "None." There was silence. Then, "Text me everything. Photos. Documents. I'll start digging." "But Hargrove, if this is what I think it is, you're not dealing with a runaway mom. You're dealing with something darker." Liam ended the call and returned to Emily, who was now doodling on a napkin. She held it up proudly. It was a stick-figure man in a suit, holding hands with a little girl. Above them, in wobbly handwriting, she'd written, "Me and Dad." Liam felt something crack in his chest. But before he could respond, the doorbell rang. Security wouldn't have let anyone up without clearance. He opened the door and froze. A woman stood there, short, mid-50s, wearing an oversized coat, sunglasses, and a trembling lip. "Mr. Hargrove," she said, voice shaking. "I'm Maria. I was Isabella's friend and Emily's godmother." Liam stared at her. "Where's Isabella?" he asked. Maria's eyes filled with tears. "She's gone," she whispered. "And I think someone killed her." Liam felt like the floor dropped beneath him. He stared at the woman, Maria, godmother to the daughter he never knew he had. She looked exhausted, as if she'd spent nights running from something dark. Her hands trembled as she pulled an envelope from her coat. "I was supposed to give you this," she said. "If anything ever happened to her." Liam took it with shaking fingers. His name was written on the front in handwriting he would never forget. Isabella's. He stepped aside, wordless, and let Maria in. Emily ran to her instantly, and wrapped her arms around her waist. "I missed you," she mumbled. Maria kissed her forehead, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. Liam moved to the corner of the room, tore open the envelope, and pulled out the letter. "Liam, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry. I never meant to keep Emily from you. I swear I didn't. But when I found out I was pregnant, you were already gone. Too far into your empire, into your world. I tried to call once. You didn't pick up. And I got scared. Not just for me, for her. There were people watching me back then. I was writing stories I wasn't supposed to. About politicians. About dirty billionaires. One night, someone broke into my apartment and left a note on my pillow. Stop digging. I ran. I went off the grid. New name. New life. Emily grew up without luxury, but she had love. Every day. But when she turned 6, someone followed us again. I knew they'd found me. That's when I told Maria everything and gave her this letter. Emily's yours, Liam. I named her Emily Grace because I hoped she'd carry both strength and kindness, like I once believed you had. If I'm gone, it's because someone made sure of it. Please protect her. And please forgive me. Isabella." The words blurred as Liam stared at the page. He had everything. Wealth, power, property. But in the moments that mattered, he hadn't been there. And now, Isabella was gone. Murdered, maybe. For stories she tried to tell. For truths she wasn't supposed to uncover. He looked up. Emily was now sitting on Maria's lap, her head resting on her shoulder. Safe. For now. Maria noticed the letter in his hands. She wasn't paranoid, she whispered. I saw them too. Black SUV. Same one. Different cities. Always parked across the street. Who were they? Liam asked. Maria hesitated. She said it started with an article she never published. Something about a secret land deal in Utah, connected to a senator. She had documents. Names. Where are they? Maria shook her head. She said she'd hidden them. In a place no one would think to look. Liam clenched his jaw. If Isabella's death wasn't an accident, then those files, whatever they were dangerous enough to kill for. And now that Emily was with him, they might come for her too. His protective instincts kicked in like fire. I want guards on this building, on every entrance. Nobody comes in or out without my say-so, he told his head of security through gritted teeth. Then he looked at Emily, who had fallen asleep in Maria's arms, and whispered to himself, I lost Isabella. I will not lose her daughter. 2 days later, Liam stood inside Isabella's last known apartment, a one-bedroom walk-up on the far south side of Chicago. The building was old. The hallway smelled of dust and mildew, and the landlord had been paid a generous sum to keep his mouth shut. Maria stood behind him, nervously fidgeting with her purse strap. She was here 3 months. Paid in cash. Never used her real name. Just said it was temporary. The apartment was stripped bare. No photos. No clothes. Just an old mattress on the floor, an unplugged mini-fridge, and a single-framed painting left on the wall, an abstract swirl of red and gold. Liam stared at the painting. She never left anything behind without a reason, Maria murmured. She was obsessive. Careful. If she left this here, it meant something. He stepped closer, examining the wall. Carefully, he removed the painting. Behind it, nothing at first glance. Then, just above eye level, his fingers found a faint outline beneath the wallpaper. He peeled it back. A small, metal safe. Bingo, he whispered. It wasn't high-tech, just an old-fashioned combination dial. Liam turned to Maria. Would she have used a birthday? A date? Maybe. Emily's birthday? Maria offered. Liam thought. Emily had just turned 7. That would make her birthday. September 14th. He spun the dial. September 14th, 18. Click. It opened. Inside were 2 things. A manila folder, thick and sealed with tape, and a flash drive taped to the inside panel. Liam carefully opened the folder. Inside were property contracts, political contribution ledgers, and printed emails between state senators and private developers. Documents proving that massive stretches of federally protected land in Utah were being sold illegally to private oil companies through shell corporations. The paper trail led directly to Senator Curtis Greeley, a powerful figure who had recently announced a bid for the presidency. Isabella hadn't just found a scandal. She'd found a conspiracy. Liam's hands tightened around the papers. This is what got her killed. Behind them, the door creaked suddenly. Liam turned, eyes narrowing. Nothing. Then, a soft metallic clink. He stepped out into the hall just in time to see a man in a dark hoodie disappear down the stairwell. Liam ran after him. "Stay with Maria," he shouted over his shoulder. He tore down the stairs, but by the time he reached the front entrance, the man was gone. A black SUV sped off around the corner. It was them, whoever they were. Liam stood in the street, chest heaving. They knew. They knew he had Emily. They knew he had the files. This wasn't just about protecting a little girl anymore. This was war. Back at the penthouse, Liam gathered his legal team, his private security detail, and Cal Reyes, the ex-Marine investigator. "We're going to do this my way," Liam said, slapping the folder down on the table. "We leak it all. Slowly. Publicly. So if anything happens to me, or to Emily, everyone will know why." Cal nodded. "I'll make sure every major media outlet has a copy." Liam looked over at the monitor in his office. Emily was in the next room, laughing softly while coloring. Oblivious. Innocent. He wouldn't let the wolves near her. Not again. Not ever. The plan was simple. Expose the truth. Not through leaks or whispers. Through a full-blown media storm. Liam Hargrove didn't do subtle. He built skyscrapers with his name on them. He'd take down corruption the same way. Loud. Public. Irrefutable. 3 days after recovering Isabella's files, Liam appeared on 60 Minutes. The interview, pre-recorded for security, was set to air Sunday night nationwide. Across the country, families gathered around their TVs as the camera panned to the familiar skyline of Chicago, then cut to the penthouse, where Liam sat across from veteran journalist Sarah Kim. She didn't waste time. "Mr. Hargrove, the country knows you as a billionaire real estate mogul. But tonight, you're sitting here not as a CEO, but as the father of a little girl, the daughter of a woman who was recently declared missing and now presumed dead. Why?" Liam didn't blink. "Because the woman you're talking about, Isabella Raines, was murdered. Not by a thief. Not by accident. But by men in suits who wanted to keep her quiet." The segment exploded from there. Liam revealed everything. The stolen land deals, the documents, the emails. Names. Dates. Signatures. He mentioned Isabella by name. He described the threats, the surveillance. He even showed the birthmark Emily carried, God's fingerprint, as his mother once called it, proving she was his child. Then came the bombshell. "In the event something happens to me," Liam said on camera, "copies of all evidence have been distributed to multiple independent journalists, federal watchdogs, and international agencies. If I disappear, it won't just be a scandal, it'll be history." The internet lit up like wildfire. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, all ablaze with hashtags. Hashtag Hargrove leak, hashtag Justice for Isabella, hashtag Landgate. And the backlash hit Washington instantly. Senator Curtis Greeley's office issued a cold, mechanical denial. "Unfounded claims by a businessman seeking attention," his spokesperson said. But the court of public opinion had already rendered its judgment. By midnight, an FBI statement confirmed an official investigation was opened. But not everyone was celebrating. At 2:11 a.m., the security alarms in Liam's penthouse triggered. His head of security burst into the master suite. "Sir," motion detected on the balcony. Liam grabbed the Glock from his bedside drawer, something he never thought he'd need in his own home, and rushed into Emily's room. She was gone. The window was open, curtains fluttering like ghosts. He shouted for backup and ran into the hallway just in time to see a masked man descending the emergency stairwell with a small, kicking bundle over his shoulder. "Emily!" Liam roared. He chased them down flight after flight, barefoot, adrenaline ripping through his veins. On the street, a black van was parked, engine idling. As the kidnapper neared the exit, Liam did something reckless. He leapt the last 3 stairs and tackled the man from behind, sending them both crashing to the concrete. Emily screamed. The van door flung open, and a second masked figure stepped out, gun raised. But before he could fire, a shot cracked through the night. The second man dropped. Cal Reyes stepped from the shadows, gun still smoking. "Nice of you to leave me out of the fun," he muttered. Liam clutched Emily, his heart thundering against hers. "I got you," he whispered. "I've got you." Sirens wailed in the distance. But Liam knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. They were cornered now, and cornered enemies were the most dangerous kind. The attack on Liam's penthouse made national headlines. Billionaire thwarts kidnapping of daughter after explosive interview. Attempted abduction tied to D.C. Land scandal? But beneath the headlines, behind the microphones and flashing cameras, something more sinister was unfolding. Emily was safe. For now. She was staying with Maria in a secured location under constant surveillance. 2 armed guards at the door, a panic button by the bed. But she was quiet, distant. The sparkle in her eyes dimmed. She doesn't understand why people want to hurt her, Maria whispered to Liam over the phone. She just wants her mom. Liam hung up, throat tight, then turned to Cal. We need to find out who ordered the hit. We follow the money, the orders, the silence. Someone's hiding behind layers of shadows. I want him pulled into the light. Cal nodded grimly. I've been digging, and I've got a name. He dropped a file on Liam's desk. Martin Sloan, mid-50s, known as the Gray Ghost among intelligence circles. Ex-CIA, now a fixer for hire. When someone needed a scandal buried, a witness silenced, or a journalist disappeared, Sloan was the call. I cross-checked security footage from your building, Cal continued. One of the masked men you tackled was ex-military. Served under Sloan in Afghanistan. Their ties go back years. Where is he? Liam asked. Last seen in D.C. airport. Headed to Salt Lake City. Probably trying to clean up the Utah end of the operation. Liam stood. Then we go to Utah. Cal raised an eyebrow. You're a billionaire real estate mogul, not Jason Bourne. Liam's eyes burned. I'm a father. That makes me worse. By the next morning, Liam and Cal landed in Salt Lake City in Liam's private jet. Snow dusted the mountains, even in summer. Cal had arranged a rental cabin, remote, untraceable. They weren't there for scenery. Within hours, they tracked Sloan to a private hunting lodge deep in the Wasatch Mountains. A compound, armed guards, surveillance cameras. It wasn't just a hideout. It was a war room. Using a drone and infrared, they confirmed Sloan was inside, along with 2 others, likely enforcers. Cal handed Liam a headset. We do this clean. Fast. We get him talking. Night fell. They moved under cover of darkness, using a narrow back trail. Cal disabled the cameras. Liam, unrecognizable in a beanie and tactical jacket, gripped the tranquilizer pistol like his life depended on it. It did. 10 minutes later, they were in. 2 guards down. Quiet. Efficient. Then they found Sloan. Alone, sipping whiskey by the fire, as if he'd been expecting them. Well, Mr. Hargrove, he said calmly. You've certainly made a mess. Liam's voice was ice. You tried to kidnap my daughter. I don't make decisions, Sloan replied. I clean them up. Liam stepped closer. Who ordered the hit? Sloan smiled faintly. You're not ready for that name. Cal jabbed a syringe into his neck before he could say more. Sloan slumped over, unconscious. They bound him and carried him to the SUV. They had what they needed. But Liam knew Sloan was just the middleman. The real enemy was still out there, rich, powerful, and willing to kill. And Liam had just declared war. Liam and Cal didn't return Sloan to authorities. They took him somewhere quieter. A decommissioned private airstrip outside Salt Lake City, still owned by one of Liam's old properties. No press, no police, just truth, violence, and a man strapped to a chair inside a steel hangar. Sloan came to with a groan, blinking into the cold overhead light. Cal cracked his knuckles. You've got 2 options. Tell us who ordered Isabella's death and the hit on Emily, or we leave you here, and I let him. He nodded at Liam. Do whatever he wants for the next 6 hours. Sloan gave a crooked smile, lips split. You think you scare me? I trained in black sites before you were house shopping. Liam didn't blink. Then you already know how this ends. Sloan held the stare for a long moment, then sighed. All right. He leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. You want a name? Fine. But it won't save you, and it won't bring her back. He paused, savoring the moment. Wallace Langford. The name hit Liam like a fist to the chest. Langford, he echoed. Cal's brow furrowed. Who the hell is Wallace Langford? Liam turned away, his jaw clenched. He was my mentor. My father's best friend. Helped build the company from the ground up. He's on the board of directors at Hargrove International. He owns 6% of my empire. Sloan smirked. Exactly. Who better to bury something than someone already inside the coffin? It didn't make sense. Langford was a quiet, polished old man with expensive suits and an affection for cigars. Liam remembered being a boy, sitting on Langford's lap, listening to stories about ambition and power. And yet, it made too much sense. Langford was always there, watching. Subtle. Strategic. For decades. Why would he do this? Liam demanded. Because Isabella threatened the land deals. She found out Langford was laundering the profits through Hargrove shell corporations. She thought she was exposing politicians, but really, she was exposing him. Liam's fist trembled. He ordered Isabella's death, tried to take Emily. All to protect himself? Sloane nodded. And to protect you. Whether you believe it or not. He always considered you the legacy. He just didn't trust you to handle the fallout. Cal cursed under his breath. That's why he's been quiet. Not defending himself publicly. He's playing the long game. Liam turned to Sloane, eyes burning. And what's your long game? Sloane shrugged. I gave you what you wanted. Now I want protection. Immunity. Liam stepped forward. You're getting something better. He picked up his phone and dialed. Special Agent Rivers, FBI, a voice answered. This is Liam Hargrove. I have Martin Sloane in custody. And I have the name of the man who orchestrated the death of Isabella Raines. Wallace Langford. I want to make a deal. The next morning, Liam sat across from Emily at a sunlit cafe in the private wing of a luxury ski resort. He needed her somewhere safe, peaceful, for what was coming next. She stirred hot chocolate, her tiny fingers gripping the mug. Are the bad guys gone? She asked. Almost, he said. One more to go. She looked up. Will you ever leave me? Liam's throat tightened. Never, he whispered. He didn't care what it cost. His money, his legacy, even his life. Wallace Langford would pay. And Liam was going to make sure the whole world watched. Liam returned to Chicago the next day with a plan and a deadline. He had 48 hours before the FBI moved on Langford. Enough time to orchestrate what Liam called a legacy funeral. Not just to destroy Langford's reputation, but to erase his influence from the empire he helped build. Because Liam didn't want revenge in private. He wanted it in headlines. He walked into Hargrove International's glass tower, unannounced, surrounded by his legal team, Cal, and 3 former journalists Isabella once mentored, now armed with every file, photo, and receipt Sloane had provided. In his hand was a flash drive labeled, Langford, the rot inside. At the top floor, Wallace Langford waited in his corner office. He was dressed in a pinstripe suit, sipping tea, as if nothing had changed. His silver hair perfectly combed. His voice calm. Liam, he said, standing. I assume this isn't a social visit. No, Liam replied, setting the flash drive on the desk. It's your last. Langford didn't even blink. So Sloane talked. Eventually, Langford sighed. Everything I did, everything, was to protect this company. To protect you. You killed Isabella. I contained a threat. She was reckless. She didn't understand the scale of what she uncovered. She was the mother of my child, Liam snapped. And you tried to take that child. Langford's eyes darkened. Because you wouldn't. You were too busy building empires to notice the storm. She made you vulnerable, Liam. Love always does. Liam leaned in. You know what makes me more dangerous than you ever were, Wallace? Langford said nothing. I finally have something to fight for. 3 hours later, Liam stood at a podium in the Hargrove International Auditorium, facing a sea of reporters. He told the full story. He confessed his blind trust in Wallace Langford, his ignorance of the illegal land dealings, and the crimes committed under the guise of protecting a legacy. Then he named Langford publicly. And let me be clear, Liam said into 100 microphones. Anyone who stands by Wallace Langford, or what he represents, will have no place in this company, or in this country's future. He uploaded the documents live on screen behind him. Bank records, wire transfers, signed authorizations. Names, dates, blood trails. Langford was arrested that evening, escorted from his lakeside mansion by federal agents. By morning, every major newspaper had the same front page. Billionaire exposes mentor behind journalist's murder. Legacy shattered. Wallace Langford faces federal charges. That night, back in the penthouse, Liam finally allowed himself to cry. He held Emily close on the couch, the city glowing beneath them, and let the grief come. For Isabella. For the years lost. For the man he once trusted. Emily looked up at him and gently wiped his cheek. It's okay to cry, she said. Mommy used to cry when she missed you. Liam kissed her forehead. I missed both of you. She smiled, small but real. You don't have to anymore. Outside, Chicago slept. But Liam Hargrove was finally awake. 6 months later, autumn painted Chicago in shades of fire. Leaves danced in the wind like everything was finally free. Emily Hargrove stood on the balcony of her new home, a restored brownstone in Lincoln Park, not a skyscraper. No guards at every turn. No glass walls. Just warmth. Books. Laughter. A piano in the hallway she now played every evening. She was 8 now. Stronger. Smarter. Still healing. Inside, Liam watched her through the open door, coffee in hand, his once untouchable face now worn with honesty. He wasn't just a billionaire anymore. He was a father. A protector. A man who had built towers but now spent his mornings braiding a little girl's hair. Wallace Langford had been sentenced to life in federal prison. Martin Sloan vanished into witness protection. And Isabella's name, once buried, now appeared on journalism awards, murals, and the foundation Liam built in her honor, the Range Trust, funding investigations into political corruption. But nothing replaced her. Some nights, Liam still heard Isabella's voice in the quiet. A laugh. A whisper. Sometimes a memory of their last kiss, years ago, when he'd let ambition come between them. He wouldn't make that mistake again. Emily ran in and tugged his sleeve. Can we go to the lake today? Liam smiled. Only if you beat me in chess first. Then get ready to lose, old man. He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Outside, the city kept moving, unaware of the war one man had fought for a little girl with a birthmark like his. And somewhere, maybe in the wind, Isabella was smiling too. Because in the end, her daughter found her way home. And her father found something even greater than power. He found love.